In a small, dusty town where the sun seemed to linger too long on cracked sidewalks, a boy named Eli carried a heart heavier than his years. Barely 16, he was known for his quiet demeanor, his eyes always searching for something beyond the horizon. Music was his refuge, a sanctuary built from the strings of an old acoustic guitar his father left behind. Every evening, Eli would sit on the creaky porch of his grandmother's house, strumming melodies that spoke of dreams too big for a place so small. Hotel California by the Eagles was his anthem, a song he felt in his bones, its haunting chords mirroring the ache in his soul. He'd sing it softly, almost like a prayer, unaware that the world was about to listen. One day, a local talent scout, passing through on a whim, heard Eli's voice drift through the humid air. It was raw, unpolished, but pierced with an emotion that stopped her in her tracks. She recorded a shaky video on her phone, Eli's silhouette against the fading sunset, his voice weaving through the lyrics like a story of longing and loss. She uploaded it to X, captioning it, "This kid's voice will break your heart." Within hours, the post exploded, shared thousands of times, with comments flooding in. "Who is this boy? He's singing Hotel California like he's lived it." Eli, oblivious to the digital storm, kept playing, unaware that his life was about to change. The video reached music producers in Los Angeles, who saw not just talent but a story, a boy from nowhere, singing his way into history. They reached out, offering him a chance to perform at a national talent show, a stage where legends were born. Eli's grandmother, skeptical but hopeful, packed his guitar and sent him off with a whispered, "Sing like you mean it, boy." The journey from his small town to the bright lights of the city felt like stepping into the song itself, a mirage of dreams and danger. Eli arrived in Los Angeles with his guitar slung over his shoulder, his heart pounding like a drum. The city was overwhelming, a labyrinth of noise and ambition, so different from the quiet fields he knew. The talent show, Starlight Stage, was a spectacle broadcast to millions, its glittering set a far cry from his porch. Backstage, Eli clutched his guitar, surrounded by polished performers who eyed him with curiosity and pity. He was the underdog, the kid in faded jeans and scuffed boots, with no formal training, just a voice that carried the weight of his life. The producers, sensing a viral moment, slotted him to perform Hotel California, a song that had already captivated the internet. As he waited, Eli thought of his father, who'd vanished when he was 10, leaving only the guitar and memories of singing together. The pain of that loss fueled his music, every note a way to process the hurt. When his name was called, the stage lights burned his eyes, and the audience's murmur felt like a tidal wave. He stepped forward, guitar in hand, and began to play. The opening chords of Hotel California filled the auditorium, slow and deliberate, each note trembling with emotion. His voice, rough yet tender, carried the lyrics like a confession, drawing the crowd into his world. The judges, seasoned and skeptical, leaned forward, their expressions softening. Social media erupted as clips of his performance spread, with ex-users posting, "This kid is unreal." And, "He's making Hotel California his own." Eli didn't know it, but his raw vulnerability was resonating, turning a classic song into a modern anthem. By the time he hit the final chorus, tears glistened in his eyes, and the audience was on its feet, cheering for a boy who'd poured his heart into every word. Backstage, the producers whispered about history being made, while Eli, overwhelmed, just wanted to call his grandmother. The aftermath of Eli's performance was a whirlwind he couldn't comprehend. Overnight, he became a sensation, his Hotel California cover trending across platforms, racking up millions of views. On X, fans created hashtags like #EliHotelCalifornia and #Voice of the Heart, sharing edits of his performance overlaid with glowing comments. News outlets picked up the story, calling him the emotional boy who stole America's heart. But fame was a double-edged sword for Eli, who'd never craved the spotlight. Back in his hotel room, he scrolled through X, reading messages from strangers who said his voice had healed something in them. Some shared their own stories of loss, connecting with the pain in his singing. Others sent fan art, sketching him with his guitar under a neon sign, echoing the song's imagery. Eli felt both honored and exposed, his private grief now a public spectacle. The talent show's next round loomed, and the pressure to top his viral performance weighed heavily. He practiced relentlessly, his fingers calloused from hours of playing, his voice hoarse but determined. The producers pushed him to lean into his story, urging him to talk about his father's absence in interviews. Eli resisted, wanting his music to speak for itself, but the narrative of the emotional boy was already cemented. He chose to focus on the song, diving deeper into its lyrics about being trapped in a gilded cage, a metaphor that now felt personal. As the competition heated up, rival contestants tried to outshine him with flashy performances, but Eli stayed true to his roots, strumming his father's guitar with quiet intensity. On X, debates raged about whether he could sustain the hype, with some calling him a one-hit wonder. Yet his supporters, growing by the day, argued that his authenticity was his strength. Eli, caught in the storm, kept singing, each note a step toward understanding his own heart and the history he was carving. As the talent show progressed, Eli's journey became a cultural phenomenon. His Hotel California performance was dissected by music critics, who praised his ability to infuse a classic with fresh emotion. On X, music teachers posted analyses of his technique, noting how his untrained vibrato carried a raw honesty that couldn't be taught. Fans began calling him the boy who sings history, a nod to how his voice seemed to bridge generations, evoking the Eagles' era while speaking to today's youth. Eli, still adjusting to the attention, found solace in connecting with fans online. He'd reply to their messages late at night, thanking them for their support, his humility endearing him further. One fan, a veteran musician, sent him a message: "Kid, you're not just singing, you're telling our stories." This struck Eli deeply, making him realize his music was bigger than himself. The show's semifinals approached, and the stakes were higher than ever. Eli chose to perform Hotel California again, but this time with a stripped-down arrangement, just his voice and guitar, to honor the song's roots. The producers hesitated, warning that repeating a song might bore the audience, but Eli insisted, believing it was his truth. On stage, he poured everything into the performance: his father's absence, his grandmother's sacrifices, his own fears of being consumed by fame. The audience was spellbound, many wiping away tears as his voice cracked on the line, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave." X lit up with reactions, with posts like, "Eli just redefined Hotel California for a new generation." The judges, visibly moved, gave him a standing ovation, one calling it a performance that will be remembered for decades. Eli's heart raced as he left the stage, feeling the weight of history settling on his shoulders, yet grounded by the guitar that had carried him this far. The cold morning mist hung low over the French coastline as German defenders peered through their binoculars, convinced they knew every possible approach the Allies could take. They had studied maps, reinforced bunkers, and laid countless obstacles on the beaches, confident their defensive wall was unbreakable. Yet, behind the horizon, the Americans were preparing to unleash something the Germans had not expected. Rolling forward were strange, ungainly vehicles that looked like trucks but had hulls shaped to float. To the untrained eye, they appeared clumsy, but these machines, the amphibious DUKWs, were about to change the rhythm of battle. 2. When the Americans first introduced the DUKW, even some of their own soldiers doubted its worth. It was half truck, half boat, designed to carry troops, ammunition, and supplies from ship to shore without the need for docks. The Germans, however, had no clue such vehicles even existed. As dawn broke, German gunners were ready for landing crafts, for infantry waiting ashore, for tanks that needed firm ground. But what they saw shocked them: vehicles driving directly out of the waves, rolling onto the beaches without pause. Confusion spread quickly across the German lines. 3. Machine gun nests opened fire, shells burst, and chaos echoed across the sand. Yet the DUKWs kept coming, bobbing on the waves and grinding forward onto the shore. Their 6 wheels dug into the wet ground, pushing through surf and mud alike. Each carried vital cargo: ammunition crates, artillery shells, radios, even medical supplies. For German defenders, this unexpected wave of floating trucks broke the rhythm of their defensive fire. They had calculated time gaps between landings, expecting pauses as boats withdrew, but now supplies and reinforcements poured in continuously. 4. Soldiers leapt from the DUKWs as soon as they grounded, turning the strange machines into lifelines on the battlefield. American engineers quickly established makeshift supply dumps, while gunners hauled artillery shells straight into newly positioned howitzers. German officers barked orders, unsure whether to target the men, the vehicles, or the endless waves still arriving offshore. Each time they destroyed one, another seemed to glide over the water behind it. Their intelligence had not warned them about this innovation, and it was this gap in knowledge that began cracking their confidence. 5. By midday, the coastline resembled a chaotic theater. The Germans, trained to anticipate waves of infantry, were unnerved by the steady stream of amphibious trucks reinforcing the American foothold. Snipers tried to disable drivers, artillery tried to sink them, but the DUKW's simple design made them surprisingly resilient. Some burned, yes, but many more survived, delivering cargo that turned the tide. The Americans no longer feared running dry of ammunition or waiting hours for supplies to be ferried ashore. Instead, they fought with fresh energy, knowing their floating trucks carried everything they needed. 6. Stories spread quickly among the German defenders. Rumors claimed the Americans had invented entire fleets of secret amphibious armor. Others whispered of factories across the ocean producing endless machines. Fear amplified every splash in the water, every silhouette on the horizon. The DUKW was no superweapon, but in psychological terms, it became one. The Germans, unprepared for its versatility, struggled to adapt. Their rigid defensive plans, based on predictable assaults, collapsed under the weight of constant surprise. What they had dismissed as a simple landing had turned into a flowing river of men and supplies. 7. The DUKWs not only supplied ammunition but also carried wounded soldiers back to offshore hospitals, saving countless lives. They ferried artillery across rivers inland, extended bridges of mobility where Germans expected bottlenecks. Every time defenders thought they had secured a choke point, another DUKW appeared, bypassing obstacles and delivering reinforcements. German reports began noting frustration, shock, and even disbelief. "Trucks that swim" became a bitter phrase muttered by soldiers who once trusted their bunkers and machine guns to hold the line. They realized their enemy's ingenuity was rewriting the rules of invasion. 8. As the days passed, it became clear that the unexpected presence of DUKWs had altered the balance. American troops gained momentum faster, supply chains stretched farther, and morale surged higher than predicted. For the Germans, the sense of invulnerability that had surrounded their coastal defenses evaporated. The Atlantic Wall was not broken only by brute force, but also by creativity and surprise. The DUKW, ungainly yet relentless, symbolized that innovation. German defenders had never known about it, and by the time they learned, it was too late. The tide of war had already turned against them.